Ever get that feeling, when you meet someone and they just seem so much younger than they actually are? And I'm not talking about like trying to dress young or anything. It's more like this energy, this spark.
Oh, absolutely. Like they've got this youthful spirit about them. You just can't help but wonder, are they onto something?
Right. Exactly. And it gets you thinking, what if it's not just their outlook, but what if their brains are actually aging differently?
I mean, that's a fascinating question. And it turns out there's actual science looking into this whole idea.
That's what we're diving deep into today, this whole link between how old we feel, that subjective age, and how our brains are actually aging.
And we've got a really interesting study to dig into. It's from the Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience Journal.
We're not just talking about feeling good for your age, we're talking brain scans, hard data, the whole shebang. So break it down for us. What exactly was the study all about?
So this study, it came out back in 2018, and they focused on a group of 68 older adults. They're all healthy, and their ages ranged, get this, from 59 to 84.
Okay, so a good range of what some might call experienced individuals.
Exactly. And the big thing they wanted to figure out was, is there a real measurable connection between how old someone feels their subjective age and how their brain is actually aging? Can you actually see it?
So how do you even go about measuring something like that? How do you capture that feeling of feeling young?
Well, they kept it pretty simple, actually. They just asked people.
No way, really.
Yep. They asked each person, how old do you feel compared to your real age? And they gave them three options for answers: younger, the same, or older.
Ah, so basic, but I bet it's effective. It's like when a doctor asks you to rate your pain on a scale of 1 to 10, it gives you a starting point.
Exactly. So now they had this baseline for how young or old each person felt.
Okay, so they've got people ranking their youthful spirit, or lack thereof. What's the next step?
This is where the cool tech comes in. They then used brain imaging to take a peek at each person's gray matter volume.
All right, so for those of us who haven't spent much time in a neurology lab, remind us, what exactly is gray matter volume and what does it tell us about the brain?
Sure. Think of gray matter as your brain's information processing center. Basically, it's involved in all the important stuff: your thinking, your decision-making, memory, even your emotions.
So pretty much everything we do, gray matter's got its fingerprints on it.
Exactly. And naturally, as we get older, the volume of our gray matter tends to decline a little.
Mm-hmm.
It's like anything else, things slow down a bit over time.
Ah, so by looking at the gray matter, these researchers were basically trying to figure out each person's brain age, right? Like how much has their brain aged compared to what you'd typically expect?
Exactly. That's the key.
Okay, so we've got people's self-reported feeling age and a snapshot of their brain's biological age. What did they find when they compared the two? Were those folks who felt younger actually onto something?
Get this, the results were pretty amazing. Those who said they felt younger than their actual age, well, their brains had something special going on. They actually had, get this, more gray matter volume.
Whoa, hold on. Are you saying their brains actually looked younger? Just because they felt younger?
It's wild, right? And it wasn't just any random part of the brain either. These were key areas. We're talking the inferior frontal gyrus.
Okay, quick anatomy lesson needed here. That one's what, the decision-making part of the brain? Did I remember correctly?
You got it. It's like the brain's command center for thinking things through, weighing choices, making those big life decisions. Maybe that's why those younger feeling folks are still out there, living life to the fullest.
I love it. So what other brain areas were looking extra youthful in this bunch?
Well, they also found more gray matter volume in the superior temporal gyrus, which basically handles language. Everything from understanding a conversation to, well, enjoying a podcast like this one.
Hey, now I resemble that remark.
Hmm.
So we've got decision-making covered, language skills. What else does a younger feeling brain have going for it?
They also saw this pattern in the striatum.
The striatum, what does that one do again?
So that's a brain area that's all about movement, motivation, even that feeling of reward. Those moments when you feel like you can conquer the world.
Or at least finally tackle that to-do list, right?
Exactly. It's that get up and go energy.
So it's not just a feeling. Their brains are literally wired for that youthful energy.
Right. And get this, when they actually used those gray matter volumes to estimate brain age, the younger feeling group consistently had a lower brain age than those who felt their age or older.
Now that's just incredible. So even though our birth certificate might say one thing, the age we feel could actually be reflected in the structure of our brains. That's mind-blowing.
It really makes you think about aging in a whole new light. Now, of course, we can't say this means everyone who feels young has a brain to match. Got to add that caveat. But it does point to this powerful link between how old we feel and what's happening in our brains. It's like our subjective experience and the physical reality, they're connected.
Okay, so we've got this link, feeling younger, having a brain that seems to be aging more slowly. But the big question is, why? What could possibly explain this mind-body connection?
Million-dollar question, right?
Sure.
One theory researchers are really digging into is called the interoceptive hypothesis.
Okay, that one sounds like we need a PhD to understand it. Break it down for us. What's the gist?
So, imagine your brain is constantly sending you little updates about your body, like energy levels good, memory banks, a little sluggish today, joints are creaking, better take it easy. That's kind of the idea here. The thought is, maybe those of us who feel our age are just more tuned in to those signals our body's sending.
Like that little voice inside saying, honey, those stairs aren't getting any shorter.
Exactly. And get this, the study actually found a link between people feeling older and having a slightly harder time with their working memory, like those little cognitive blips we all get. So it's possible those everyday struggles could play a role in making someone feel older.
That makes sense. If you're constantly forgetting where you put your keys, you might start feeling a bit, shall we say, vintage.
Right. But here's where it gets even more interesting. They adjusted for those cognitive differences, how well people's brains were actually working,
Yeah.
and the link between feeling younger and having that younger looking brain still there.
Wait, so even if you're sharp as a tack, your brain's working just fine, you can still feel older, and your brain might actually reflect that. It's like our feelings about aging go beyond just how well our brains are functioning day to day. So we're not just talking about how well our brains are working. It's like maybe it's how old our brains feel deep down that makes a difference.
Yeah. It really makes you think, doesn't it? And it opens up all these questions about like the connection between our mind and body and what aging really even is.
So you're saying feeling younger it could actually be a good sign. Like maybe things are going a little slower than they could be.
It's a really interesting thought. But got to be careful here. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
This was just one study, and we need more research to really understand what this means in the long run.
Of course. Of course. Don't want to give anyone false hope or anything. Like, hold the anti-aging cream, everyone. We need more data.
Exactly. But it's exciting, right? This study, it's like it gives us a starting point, throws open a door to a whole new area of research.
Mhm.
We're talking about how we feel about getting older and what's actually happening in our brains.
I like that. It's like we've got this whole uncharted territory to explore now. And it makes you wonder, what are those people who feel younger doing differently? Is there something, some habit or mindset that plays a role?
Right. That's the million-dollar question. Now, this particular study, they didn't really dig into that why part of subjective age. But other research, there are some clues out there. Some studies show that folks with a lot of social connections, a positive outlook, a sense of purpose, they tend to feel younger.
So maybe it's that weekly book club, volunteering, or just taking a minute to appreciate what you've got. It could make a difference.
Possibly. And then there's physical activity, a healthy diet, keeping your brain challenged with new things. All that plays a role in how well our brains work, and maybe even in how old we feel.
It's funny, isn't it? It's like all that classic advice we've heard a million times. Suddenly it's connected to this whole fascinating brain thing.
It all ties together. It's not just about living longer. It's about, those years, making them count, and feeling younger. Maybe that's a bigger part of the puzzle than we thought.
I love that. So here's something to think about. What about you? How old do you feel? Younger than you are? Older? Or right on track? And what is it in your life that might be playing a role? This whole deep dive, it reminds us that aging, it's more than just a number on a birthday cake. It's about our brains, our experiences, and how we choose to feel about it all.